Hello everyone, good evening. All right, so let me allow you guys to talk. So guys, can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay. All right, so let's proceed. Let's see what do we have for the day. So how many of you joined the last class, last demo class, which was held yesterday? Okay. So in case if you missed our demo one, then here is the link for the recording. You can go and watch it up. Okay, so I just covered some basics on like what is firewall, how do you install a firewall, on which zone do you install, what is stateless versus stateful, IPsec versus firewall, transparent mode, types of firewall, UTM, network ports, and DMZ. So this was some introductory about the firewall course. Okay, so today let's see what do we have. So I'm gonna take the introductory classes. So don't worry if you missed. You can easily go up and catch the topics. Okay. All right. So I will take few of the topic from, let's say, something from here. Okay. Might be some topic on this side. So this is how we will make the progress. When I complete something, I'll just put done, or if something is pending, then I'll to put like a pending. So we will have a track of what is covered and what is not covered. Okay, so this is how we will maintain the whole curriculum. So I put almost all the topics. Some may not work, so I'll show you the theory part there. Due to the license issue, some of the topics may not work, but I will still cover from the theoretical knowledge. Okay, and most of the things we can do it on the lab. So if it is not be able to cover on the lab scenarios on the evaluation version, so I will show you the theory for that, but I'll gonna mark it as done or theory shown or something, so that you have a visibility on what is to be done and what is pending or what is coming for you. Okay, so course intro I already did. As I told you, you can go and watch demo one. Firewall intro was done yesterday. So today we can go with Palo intro and the hardware series, some of the line cards of the Palo Alto. Okay, the different Panorama hardware series, the different license and subscription here used in Palo Alto, some of the CLI and some troubleshooting commands. I will show it to you guys. So some of you asked to show you guys the CLI commands. I'll show that before we get into the graphical interface. Okay. And the management IP initial configuration might be we will do it in the next class. Okay. Because I want to add something for packet flow. Some packet flow things I will show you to guys, and some automation topics I will show you today. Okay. So in the next class, then I'll start from this topic, then the management and all these things. All right. So let's take this and put somewhere in a notepad. It will be easy for us to mark completion. All right. So Palo Alto intro. So you all know that it's one of the popular next gen firewall in the industry, network security industry. So let's see what are they into. Okay. So when I say what are they into, they are basically structured in a different portfolio. So let me show it on their website directly, so you will understand it better. So what are they classified into? Okay. So let me take you to their website. And let's say here, I click on cloud security. Okay. When I select cloud security, so Palo Alto as a company has one of their portfolio towards cloud security. Okay. So this is for someone who wants to get into Palo Alto Networks cloud security domain. For all the enterprise people, network engineers or network administrator, these are the courses. Okay. So the cloud security is named as Prisma. Let me put it over here. Just a minute. Let me just open the highlighter. So it's called as Prisma, Palo Alto Prisma. The color would be in this color. Okay, so when you see some logo with the bluish uh, color, it's that portfolio Palo Alto's Prisma, which is into the cloud security. The Strata model, which normally they show it in the yellowish color, called as Strata model. These are for the enterprise people. Okay, the network side, network security. And we are going to cover the Strata model. So we are going to cover the certification PCNSA and some topics from the PCNSC. Not all, because of the license concern. As I told, I'll show the topic, but some topics may not be replicable on the lab environment. So PCNSA is still doable, but not PCNSC. And they also have another model which is called as Cortex. Cortex stand for all the uh, packet inspection and see, I'll show you that. So these are Cortex portfolio. Okay, we deal with your antivirus and the security concept. Okay, the malicious attacks or SOC side of that. Okay, and the symbol or the color for this portfolio they usually use is a greenish symbol. So it's called as Cortex. Each domain, each of them has its own certification. So where do you start your career from? So you will start it from this side. Okay, the Strata model, which consists of PCNSA and PCNSC. Now, regarding this certification, you can just go up, look for network security. Okay, so you can just open up the certification like PCNSA and PCNSC. So the PCNSA exam is a multi-question answer format. There would be a question with multiple options, a multiple answer option, and you have to select one or the other. And let me just put it on the notepad. Okay, regarding the PCNSA. So it is actually a 50 to 60 minute of official exam, which consists of like 80 questions, 80 up to 80 questions. Okay, the cost of this is around 155 USD dollar. Okay, whereas PCNSC is 175 US dollar, and this also consists of some 90 minute. Okay, so this is regards to the certification, where do you start from, and as I told you, this is the Strata model that you would perform. Okay, you should know what portfolio you belongs to of the Palo Alto network, because they are into lot of things. So you will not go and learn everything that they offer, right? So you will go with the Strata model, which is the enterprise network security solution provided by Palo Alto. Okay. All right. So let's say that we are good with certification for now. Okay. So if you need any link, I can also send you. Let me keep it here. So whatever link I discuss, I'll put on the Zoom chat. Okay. Or I'll also put over on this, because there are some people who would watch the recording later on. So they will not have access to Zoom chat. Okay. So I'll just keep it here so they can at least take the reference and hit on their browser. All right. Now, what is the next thing? So let's say hardware series. Okay. So I want to show you the hardware. How does the Palo Alto hardware look like? And what are the models that they support? And what are the different ways of deploying Palo Alto? Okay. So you can deploy Palo Alto in various ways. One would be the software version, software method, or I can say that uh, VM method. Okay. The second one, I can say that a complete physical hardware. You go and say that I need so and so hardware. You purchase it as per your requirement. Okay. And then you deploy it. So the hardware is owned by you. And then the cloud solution. Okay. You can go with the SaaS model or IaaS model, infrastructure as a service or service as a infrastructure, right? So what are the options here? You can either go with the AWS or Azure or GCP model. When I say software version, you might be knowing that there is a EXI version of Palo Alto, or you can go with any type 2 hypervisor concept like VM workstation or something like that. Okay, so the VM version of it, containers also what we call it. And hardware is what is kept here, which I'll just discuss. So these are all the hardware models. It is important because when you attend some interview, they will ask you which model of Palo have you worked upon. Okay, so if by chance you say you worked for Palo 3000 series, how does that hardware look like? What are the interfaces? What are uh, the different line cards there? So you should know what all line card is supported in the hardware of these Palo Alto. Okay, so that is why I'll stretch a bit on the second point. The software version is something which I'll also show you, like what versions you have and etc etc, though we will also be using this in our lab. So gradually you will get into that. Hardware, I'll show it now, what all different model and what the hardware comprises of. And this you can see in the marketplace of the cloud. Okay, so if you go to, let's say, AWS marketplace and you look for a Palo Alto, so they already have the ready instance. You just pay and get the service. See, so this stands for bring your own license. That means uh, they are gonna give you the firewall, but you have to top up with the license. What license we will talk today? What are the different license that Palo Alto has it? That I'll talk it in this topic. What are the different license that Palo Alto has it? Okay, but options are available. You can go and take it up. So this is BYOL, that is bring your own license. But there are certain things where the license are available. So if you go with, let's say, Panorama, you can use it, but the charges will also be applicable. Okay, so they have put the charges. So if you want to lab it on Panorama or something, then you can do it. So I said that some PCNSE topics are not doable on the software version, but that doesn't mean that you cannot book something for yourself and practice it, because theory, however, I'll be covering in the class, right? So if you want, you can book something from the AWS, or if you have some credit left for some month or 2 month or 3 month, you can book this and practice it. So I'll give you all the pointers where you can do and also help you in the setting it up. So it is your take. If you want to go much deeper in the Palo Alto, then we will guide you with that as well. Okay, so this is the cloud version. Regarding the hardware series, let's see what all hardware series we have. So something starting with a lowest model, which is 200 series, goes up to 7,000 series. Okay. So 200 towards 400, then towards 800, 3,200 series, 3,400 series, 5,200 series, 5,400 series, 5,450, and finally 7,000 series. So it's like you start with something, then you will have something at the end. So you cannot just go and take that 7,000 series. You have to see what's the requirement. If it is a small scale customer, they will never go with something from this higher end, because the pricing also would matter. Okay, so the preference for a small segment would be either 400 series or 800. Okay, or if it is a site with just 2 to 10 member, or might be 10-15 member, then they go according to it. So this all depends on your requirement. Okay, one is your requirement, second thing is the budget. How do you conclude that this is the right model for you? You have to always go with the data sheet. Okay, you have to refer the data sheet of these model. Each model will have the data sheet, and when you see that, when you open up the data sheet of, I mean, any vendor, not just Palo Alto, even Cisco, if you go into some next generation firewall or router, they will have a clear set of features, that how many numbers it supports, right? So data sheet is nothing but it shows you what this hardware can support up to. Okay, so all the features of this Palo Alto would be put up with some number, so you can like cross check whether Palo Alto 7,000 is what you need, or you can adjust that with Palo Alto 800 series, and you think that 800 is good with you, go with 800 series. Okay, I'll show the data sheet also. But before that, let's see the internal architecture of these hardware. Okay, how does this look like? So if I open up one of them, the lowest one, that is 200 series, let's see what it comprises of. Okay, so it would be a very standalone box. Standalone box in the sense, a one single line card with some switch port on the front panel. Okay, some options for your USB, some options for your HA port, some options for the ISP fiber, some LEDs. But remember, these would be a standalone chassis. That means if a fan rack goes corrupt, you cannot hot swap it. You have to replace the complete unit. You have to raise the RMA and get the complete unit replaced, and then bring back those configuration on the model. It's like a single chassis or single piece of hardware here. And what is the internal architecture look like? There would be a control plane, management plane, and data plane. Okay, and where are those physical input and output? So those are here. So the input and output, the gigaports, gigaport, HA port, okay, those will be on the front end, which is also called as data interfaces. So on the data plane, all these things will happen. App ID, user ID, URL match, policy match, app decoding, SSL, IPsec, VPN, decompression, flow control, route lookup, MAC. Okay. And the good thing about the architecture is the data plane has its own RAM and CPU. Okay. So this RAM and CPU is just to handle the data forwarding. But when the traffic is meant for, let's say, control plane, okay, then it will have its own CPU and RAM, its own storage for storing the logs. The management has its own performance and all those things. So you have the port. See, these are the port here, the management port. all the Palo Alto will have one dedicated management port. Okay, so that traffic will directly hit the management plane. And also the HA availability, the failovers that you would configure between two Palo Alto, that traffic is also managed by the management plane itself. So this is how a smaller box of Palo Alto would look like. Very simple, non-hot swappable format. Something goes wrong, you have to replace the thing. But the good thing is the resource utilization is segregated so that one CPU or one RAM do not have to do the entire thing. Okay. Let's see some other model. Let's say if I go towards uh, 3000 series. Okay, so now you see that the things got increased. So it is maintaining a separate management, okay, different management plane. The cores are increased now. The RAM dedicated for this would be increased. The physical input output port management and HA is still connected to the management plane. Under the data plane, since this is a bigger box now, it is having a line card for signature matching. It has a line card, dedicated line card for your data forwarding checks. Okay. There is also a network processing line card. These are all called line cards. Okay. I hope you know what is line card. Line card in the sense in a bigger chassis, when you want to add something, you just add that line card to that. And if something goes corrupt with that line card, you can remove it and replace with another line card. Okay. You're just increasing, like if you open your desktop CPU, there is an option to add RAM stick. You can add, right? So this is also same thing. You will have the chassis, you can insert or you can remove out these line cards. Okay. So this is how a bigger box would look like with a better management to handle a lot of traffic now. Let's see something. Let's see something for the 7000 series. Okay. Okay. Let me bring that URL. Okay. So let's say I go to 7000 series. Now in the 7000 series, I'll tell you what are the additional things. So management planes are still different. The cores have increased, the RAM have increased, the storage capacity has been increased. You have SSD now. Management port and HA port are still plugged to the management plane itself. And all your data plane, now you see, has something called NPC. Okay, NPC stands for Network Processing Card. Network Processing Cards, in the sense line cards. Okay, and this is Data Processing Card. Now you will see some difference. On the NPC card, you see some physical inputs, input and output. That means you can expect those giga ports here, gig 0/0, gig 0/1, okay, till let's say gig 0/6. But on the other side, DPC do not have it. They don't have any ports, correct? You don't see any physical ports here. So what is DPC then is used for, or why the line card DPC would be added? So let me tell you in this way. The NPC cards are your actual card with all the physical input output, which will handle the data traffic and all the packet flow, etc. In addition to NPC, you can add something called data processing card, and data processing card is just to give additional benefit to the NPC, to the traffic processing. But DPC will not have any physical input and output. They will be just a line card that you can purchase even after once you have purchased. Let's say initially you bought the Paloalto 7400, but you went with only NPC module. But later on you can buy DPC and plug it. So DPC will give you more bandwidth now, but DPC will not have the input. So you cannot think of adding only DPC without NPC, because DPC do not have any switch ports, right? So you cannot add just DPC line cards. You have to add DPC with congestion with NPC cards. So this is for you to have a high processing. Okay. Now, what is the data sheet for, let's say, the 7000 series? Okay, we can see that over here in the data sheet page. Okay, see something, yeah, this something like this it looked like. These are called the line cards. So this is NPC line card. You can see those switch port, correct? These are NPC, network processing line card. You have optic fiber, etc., etc. This is also another NPC card. This is another NPC card, and this is also NPC card. So 4 NPC line cards are added. On the other side, if you see these line card where there is no switch port, that is your DPC ports, DPC line cards, data processing line card, which is added in conjunction or in addition to the to your NPC card. This is just to increase the throttle, the bandwidth of it. Let's say now your line card was processing 1 Gbps. Adding data processing card will increase the bandwidth, right? So that is how you increase it. So these are all the line cards. Some line cards might be reserved as well. I'll tell you what other line cards you can use it. So you have one more line card here, which is called as switch management card, where all the management traffic is handled. Okay, related to your management. There is something called as log processing card. Okay, where is that log processing card? It would be here, somewhere here. Okay. So what log processing do? All your logs, there would be huge number of log size. That's why if you observed, there were SSD provisioned in the 7000 series, SSD 1 and SSD 2. So you can expect how much the log would be considered, because the logs are important for you to analyzes the traffic and all those things, right? So the LPC and there is one more card. There are 2 cards. So LPC has a provision of storing the logs inside them because they have the storage capability. Whereas that another log card, what they do is they will send it to an external medium. Okay. Any external medium. You might know that we collect logs via external syslog and all those concept, right? So we can forward all the logs to them. So that is how we can capture the logs in the firewall, firewalls. Okay. And what else we have? We have DPC card, data processing card with no physical input output. We have NPC card, network processing card. Okay. And then you will have some ports for the OS. That you will have some port for management. You will have a HA port. Okay. You will have the fan tray on this. All these are hot swappable. You can take out, replace it in case of there is any issue with the any of the line cards. Okay, let's see the data sheet. What does this support? Okay, so let me show you the comparison of different hardwares. See here. So starting from the 5000 series, 5000, 3000 series, all your 7000 series. Okay, so you can see the difference. App ID, firewall throughput. So this is a proprietary concept of Palo Alto. Okay, so app ID is a proprietary concept of the Palo Alto. What does app ID do is, let's say one example, simple example, Facebook has multiple features, chat feature, video feature, uh, let's say the advertisement features, correct? So your Palo Alto will segregate the services and assign a port to that. Let's say the Palo Alto sense that it's a Facebook chat. Let's say it's giving some XYZ port number to that. Now this has been assigned with some XXXX kind of port number. Let's say this has been assigned as ABC. Now why we do this is because using the app ID feature of Palo Alto, I can restrict. I can say that I don't want any advertisement and video calling in my enterprise, but let still the Facebook chat run for me. Okay. So how does this happen? Your Palo Alto should be able to segregate. It can segregate the application and assign it a port number so that you can block it, or you can block, or you can allow it. Okay, so this is all the features here. Threat prevention, VPN throughput. Okay, so yeah, something with 21, so you see 42. When it's a higher box, okay, you can see the throughput, so something in 300. The connection per second. Okay, these are all the sessions that it can create. These are the policies that it supports from the series to series. Security zone, how many security zones you can configure. Okay, the different objects. So what do you understand by object? See, object is nothing but where you can categorize. Okay, so let's say I call it as server red, and I put all my IPs into that. Instead of creating a single policy, I can just group them and I can use that name in my security policy. I can say this is the source, this is the destination, and let's say under the source, I can call that as server ret. Okay. So instead of calling single IP for single policy, I can just call that object group itself. Okay, so this section talks about how many you can create such group and do all this. This concept is available in most of the firewall. Even ASA firewall has the concept. Okay, and it makes the scalability very easy. Okay, you can scale up. You can minimize writing multiple access list. Security profiles, as I showed you yesterday, all your antivirus profile, anti-spyware profile, okay, all that profiles you can create here. App ID, as I already told you, the differentiate, okay, it will differentiate the app. In the sense, the application might have multiple services, so it will differentiate one service to another. In ASA and all, what happens in Cisco ASA, what happens, you have a capability to block a URL. So let's say you want to block this, or you want to block this. You can do it using the blocking this one. But what if you want to allow Facebook's chat, but you want to disable other thing? ASA do not have the concept of app ID. Palo Alto has it. It can differentiate the services, okay, and it can identify. ID stands for identifier, application identifier, and then you can easily say that I want to block this and not the other services of Palo Alto. So that stands for app ID. It's a proprietary thing of Palo. No other vendor has the concept. User ID, again, this is something which makes Palo Alto unique. So what is user ID? User ID stands for the source person. Okay, so let's say example, example as the person who is working there, who is having the source so and so, okay, with MAC address. Usually you would consider this for user behavior, right? You would say that there is a person with so and so, block it or allow this or all those things. But in the Palo Alto, it is not just about the basic information. You can also check the behavior of this user, like which server he has accessed and what he has triggered the command, or what is his behavior. So complete user tracking can happen. And on that basis, you can set the rules that you want to disable so and so thing, or you want to allow so and so thing. Okay. It will not just take your only IP address to make that Tim has an IP of 1.1 dot, but it will see the behavior. Okay. So you can set those configuration inside the Palo Alto. So if you ever seen the dashboard, there is an option called user identification. Okay. Some agents has to be installed on the server side. Okay. So you will provide all the details there of that server. And whoever logs in, you can see the complete picture that who has come and what has been done on that server and all those things here. All the server monitoring, the network behavior, you can see it. Okay, this is called user identification. Let's say user Tim, what all things he did and etc. etc. The complete history will be put up in this page. Okay, this is also one of the unique feature of Palo Alto. SSL decryption, you already know that when the HTTPS packet gets terminated on the Palo Alto, the packet, basically packet processing, encryption and decryption, which is done by a lot of firewalls. Even ASA does it because ASA also support the VPNs. Okay. URL filtering, you want to block so and so website, or you want to block so and so thing. Okay. So these are all interface capabilities, different throughputs. This is virtual router concept. Virtual router is like your routing table. Okay, routing table, but you might have heard about the VRF concept, right? Where one single routing table can be broken into sub routing tables. So let's say I have a customer X routing table. It's different than a customer Y routing table. Okay, or a customer Q has a different routing table. So here in Palo Alto, we can create multiple routing virtual routers. And I can say that this particular zone belongs to so and so, this particular zone belongs. I can keep my routing table segregated. That is the concept. But by default, there will be a routing table or a virtual router called as default. Okay. But if you want to create it, you can go ahead and create it. So if you go to the dashboard, if you go to network, if you go to virtual router, so there is already default enabled. But if you want to create any virtual router, you can create from here. Let's say I say virtual router 1. Okay, then I can add what OSPF or whatever I want to enable in this. Okay, so let's say I created a virtual router VR1 and so on. So later on, when I go with the interface configuration, okay, when I select one of the interfaces, I have that option of selecting where I want to put that routing to. So let's say if this interface was taking to my DMZ for customer X. So I can say that this interface belongs to VR1. Okay. Now my routing table will be completely different from the other virtual router. So that is the concept of virtual router. We will do this when we start with the uh, creation of all those things. Okay. So for now, let's take it that way. Virtual wire, as I told you, the transparent mode yesterday. We had a complete session yesterday for transparent mode and what is allowed, what is not allowed. So here in Palo Alto, we call it as virtual wires, whereas in ASA and all, you usually call as transparent mode or whatever. Okay. Virtual system, again, something which is available in most of the them. You just can break a complete Palo Alto logically into 4 division or 5 division or all those things. Okay, most of technology has this. We call it as VSS. Okay, or virtual breaking. It is not that you break in pieces. Okay, virtual breaking of this to segregate thing. Routing, as I told you, Palo supports routing. It supports L2 forwarding. Okay, these are all the difference between the hardwares. NAT is allowed, address assignment, that is DHCP server and relay, high availability. Okay, so regarding the high availability, you might have seen that most of hardwares will configure. Yes, it's a multi-contest context in ASA. Okay, the same concept. So let's say when you have a HA availability, what you think about it, that some connection between the two units, and during some so and so you can create so and so, correct? So that comes in your mind. But here in Palo, you can create two HA pair. That is, you can say that is your primary HA, and then you can say that this is your secondary HA. All right. And in case this HA goes down for some reason, you can also have something called as backup for them. Backup primary HA and backup secondary HA. Backup primary HA and backup secondary HA in case the primary goes down. That is why you see the count here. You see the count. Why would someone need 8 HA? That is because when you configure all of them, it eventually gets into count of 8. Okay. So it is showing 2 here. Might be that's that lower end device. Let's see what device is that. Okay, so it is showing here for because that has a separate line cards and all those things, right? So whereas these are all having lesser number of line card. Okay, if something fails, you need to have the backup of HA pairing so that you can shift the traffic, the connection tables and all those things. Okay, QoS is supported. Okay, IPsec VPNs are supported. This is the VPN client. Like if you have heard in the Cisco, Yeni Connect. Okay, so here in Palo Alto, we call it as Global Protect. Okay, so that's a client here. Then multicast and all product end of sale, etc., etc. So this is your data sheet, which categorize or which gives you an idea that which model you have to support to your customer. Okay. So it depends on various factor like user throughput, number of VPNs you might need to create, or how many sessions you are expecting. So all this you can check it over here. Okay, so once again I'll put the link for you guys. Feel free to check it or take it somewhere later on. You can read it across. Okay, so we discussed hardware series, line card, Panorama. Now what is Panorama? Have you guys heard about Panorama? Any of you? Have you heard about some concept called centralized management these days? Like for example, when you have a Cisco FTD, we have FMC. Okay. For Cisco ASA, we have that ASDM. Okay. Similar way, when you have Palo Alto, you have the concept of Panorama. Okay. Or when you have the SD-WAN technology, then you have the concept of vManage. When you have the concept of ACI, you always say Epic, right? So these are the centralized concept where you can manage the complete network, the complete individual units here. You don't have to log into each one of them. This will have the access to all. So in the case of Palo Alto, because we are taking the example of Palo, so let's say in the case of Palo Alto, how this would work. Okay, so I'm gonna keep, let's say, one Panorama here, and below the Panorama there would be multiple standalone firewalls. So this is Panorama, and these are all your standalone units, PA1 till PA, let's say 10. Now, if you want to push a policy, so let's say you are here. So you will not push the policy one after one. You log into PA1, then you log into PA2, then you go till PA. That is not how it works. That is why enterprise, when they have more than two or four or something, they go with Panorama concept, because now you log into Panorama, and from Panorama you will push it, and the push will happen simultaneously on all the Palo Alto that is managed within that Panorama. Okay, so it's like centralized controller in the case of Palo Alto networks. Okay, for the Strata technology or the Strata portfolio, Panorama. Now, Panorama also has the software version. You can also check them on the cloud version. You can also find the hardware version. Okay, so as usual, software version, you will go to the respective software, or you can get the EXI concept or all those things. For this, you will go towards AWS or any other cloud solution. Hardware also, there are some series like M200, M400, okay, so M600 something. So fixed number of hardwares there. So let's see that. I mean, let's see a quick view. Let's see the quick view of some Panorama devices. So guys, any issues with my screen resolution? You're having any issues? Okay. Okay. So these, see here, the next generation hardware that we discussed just now. Just when you scroll it bit, you will find the Panorama hardware architecture. So click on Panorama. Okay. So as I told you, you have a very limited series here, starting from 200, 300, 600, 700. Okay. So the purpose of this is just to centralize. So you don't need a data plane and all those things. This is like more like management only. You have the management, its own CPU and all those things for pushing and the operations. So whatever is the specification, so it's mentioned here how much, what is the speed of so and so. Because if sometimes what happened, the centralized controller, if it is very laggy, the whole process can be slowed down, right? So you don't want a centralized solution which is very slow while you push the policies, or when you're managing 10 different standalone Palo Altos, right? So depending upon that, you can select whatever you want from this list. You can see the data sheet as well. It will show you the comparison between one to other Panorama hardwares. Okay, so this is your data sheet from here. How much CPU, etc., etc. All right, so that is about the Panorama. So we checked that. Okay, regarding the license, coming to the license part. So you know that you have hardware or software or cloud deployed versions of Palo Alto. Okay. But what license now you need on them? Okay. so that they are fully functional. Otherwise, they are not going to be fully functional. You can do the basic operations, like you can create interfaces, you can create zones, you can create virtual routers, you can create NAT, you can do some basic troubleshooting, uh, you can do some basic authentication testing on a basic without license, okay, the basic license. But let's say you wanted to go with the advanced concept, okay, like you wanted to have some digital signature added up to the profile, or you wanted to have the antivirus concept added to the profiles, okay. So for this, the license you need to take up. Or if you want to do some IoT concept, okay, or you want to do some wildfire concept. So for all additional things, you need the license. The basic one will not work. So that is what I said. When we do the lab, the basic things are replicable. Okay, we can do a lot of things in the basic structure. All your PCNSA topics can be covered. But in the PCNSC, these topic will be taken up from the theory concept, because this need license. Okay, so even if you are replicating on your home lab, if you have license from somewhere, you can do them. Otherwise, you can do all this thing and you can learn the theory. And if you get hands-on in your enterprise or something, then you can test other features as well. Okay, so let's see what all the license that Palo Alto offers. So these are the subscription that we have to purchase. Okay, so IoT security, PAN OS SD-WAN, threat prevention, advanced threat prevention, DNS security, URL filtering, advanced URL filtering, wildfire, autofocus. Autofocus is your Cortex portfolio. So don't think that you need all of them to run your operations. So these are a complete list. Doesn't mean that you need all of them. Might be most of people go with only one license from here, or might be two license. Okay, this page consists of more than 10 license. All your Strata license, the Cortex, the Prisma, but you need only some of them, not all of them. Okay. Then you have Cortex. Again, this is a different portfolio. See, this is Global Protect Gateway. Okay. Virtual systems, DLP, data loss prevention, SaaS security inline. So around 10 to 15 different licenses are available. And how do you top it? It's very simple. The management of Palo Alto is very, very simple. When you go to device, okay, on the dashboard, when you go to device, just scroll up here. There's something called as software. Okay. So from software side, you can actually download and do all the things, etc. So you will see that if there is any latest software and all that, it will make a call to the internet and it will pull that this is a software available for you to install. Or let's say you go to VM series. Okay, see, there is a license part here. So if you want to activate something, retrieve the license key from the license server. So if it is a licensed product, it will make a call to your Palo cloud and it will fetch the license that you have purchased it. Or if you want to manually upload the license key, then you can also do it this way. You can upload the license. So every operations you can do it from the dashboard itself. Okay. See, here you have the option of software, the dynamic update. Okay, so if you click on dynamic update, you can click on check now. It will check if there is any new update or any patch update or something, and accordingly you can upgrade them. Okay, and this is the license where you can upload any sort of license. Okay, so this is how the license work. And as I told you, 75 to 80% will work all your basic things that you want to do. Okay, all your authentications, your VPNs, uh, the object network, etc., etc., or most of them will work. But what will not work is some of these options. Okay, some options from here may not work. Some options from the security policy may not work. Okay, some will work, some may not work. Antivirus and all these things, you need a license. If you click here, if you click on the antivirus, okay, so you see that what does it say? There is a warning here. Threat prevention license required for antivirus, anti-spyware, vulnerability protection to function. That means for this, and for this, you need this license. Okay. And this license is nothing but that we just have seen here. This one, threat prevention. Okay. Now you go and talk to the sales team of Palo, get the license, load it up. You know where do you load it, and now this would be activated. Okay, that is how we buy license and upload it. See here, for this it says that license required for URL filtering. Okay, let's say file blocking. See, wildfire analysis. Okay, so some will work without any license, but only some corner areas will work, will need a license. And again, we do not need license for PCNSA topic. This is a PCNA coverage. We can do all of them without the license. When you go with PCNSE, then only the license part is required. Okay, so you don't worry about the license part. You can do lot of things without license on this. All troubleshooting and all security policy, the main things you can do it. Okay, now let's see what are we heading up to. So license and subscription. And also let me show you the software series that's running on Palo Alto. Okay, which version of software do we need? So this is the software version. Okay, so started from Pan OS. It's called as Pan OS. Remember that. Okay, every vendor will name their software in some way, like Cisco has iOS XE, iOS XR, Nexus OX. The Cisco FTD is having FX OS, right? So similar way here in Palo Alto, the softwares are called as Pan OS. The version you can see that it started from like 1.3, but they have now end of life. That means they are out of the market. So what do we have currently? So we have this running up 10.2, 10.1 is available. Okay, 10.0 is available. We would be working on these ones. Okay, so in our lab we have 10.0, 1 and 2. 9 we are not using because Panorama was not supported, and also it's and some of them are end of life, like these are all end of life. 8.1 is gone, 9.0 is gone, this is also gone, 2020. So only 9.1 is available. If you want to test something, we can provision you this, or if you like, most of the people would take 10.1 or 10.0, at least -1, because never go with the latest, because that can have lot of bugs or some sort of vulnerability leak. So we have to go with -1 or -2 always. Okay, so these are some software versions. So we know the deployment, either hardware, either VM, either cloud. We know the software models now. So something like 10.0 or .1, 10.1 or .2. We know the different license that Palo supports. Okay, what are different license it supports. So we are good with a basic now, basic kind of thing here. All right, so what do we have? Showcase of CLI command and troubleshooting command. Okay, for that I need to take you guys to the console. Let me take you guys to the console. This is where our Palo Alto lab is put up. This is where the lab is arranged, or all the different networking components are added. So you guys will get the access to this. You can spin up the lab. So I'll just give you one example. Let's say I want to spin up this. So how would I do is, I just right click on that. I click on start button, and then I double click on it. Okay, and this sort of console will open and it will start booting up. It usually takes Palo is faster, but not very faster. It takes at least 2 to 5 minutes for all the backend service to get stabilized. Once that Tomcat service and all the backend database gets stabilized, then only the login will work. Okay, so don't unnecessarily try your login credential as soon as you see that something is up on the screen. The backend service might still be taking time to get stabilized. Okay, so wait for 2 to 5 minutes and then you can try your credential, and it will take up. So initial credential for Palo is admin and admin. On the first attempt is gonna ask you to change that password. I usually keep it this structure because Palo Alto take something in a capital, case sensitive, or special character. So something like this, I go and put it there. But then you can create any of your password set. Okay, it's up to you. Now let's see that. See, now this is showing that login button, correct? So now if I say admin and admin, it will give me login incorrect. That doesn't mean that it was really login failure. It's because the backend process has not been stabilized. The services are still in a progress. So you have to wait for 2 to 5 minutes once you see this screen. Then only type that admin, then change the password on the first attempt. And also one more interesting thing here is Palo Alto will reveal the IP of your DHCP. So how that works is, let's say this is a Palo Alto, and if the Palo Alto's management IP is configured with the DHCP or NAT, automatically this would be put up on a DHCP mode. This would be put up on a DHCP mode. Okay. And as soon as you have the DHCP discovery happening, you will receive an IP and it will show on the top of the terminal. You don't have to log in and put some commands to get that IP. Most of the time, let's say if it was a Cisco ASA or any other vendor, if it was Cisco ASA or 40 gate or FI LTM, even though they are configured with the management port with the DHCP, that the IP will not be revealed. You have to log in. First, you have to log in. Then you have to put the respective command, like show int IP brief. If it was a F5, you go to the bash mode and then you say that list LTM management IP. Correct. Then only you get that IP, whatever is being taken up by the DHCP process. But here in the in the PA and the Palo Alto, it automatically starts reflecting on the top that this is your DHCP IP. Now, what is the best? Why it's best? Because now when you have that IP, you can quickly go to the browser and try to get the dashboard instantly. You don't have to go and get the management, then take up the browser, add it, right? So you can just cut down some steps here. Okay, now let's once again try with the credential. Okay, see, now I think it is stabilized. Okay, so it took 3-4 minutes. It's asking me to put the old password. I say admin is my old password, and it's asking me to set a new password here. Okay, so let's put something. As I told you, there should be uppercase, lowercase, and some special characters. Okay, now it says that so and so is in this mode, user privilege mode. I can run all my show commands using this mode. Okay, all the show commands. So let's say I put show clock. I have it. I want to see the management IP. So I say show interface management. Okay, so where is my management IP? It's over here. 26.197. Now this is a management interface. I can just go and open it up on my browser. Something like 16, 26, and what is that? 197, right? So let's say 197. See, so initially it will give you this because we are using it in the labs condition. We do not have a signed certificate. Okay, that is why it says that you don't have a signed certificate, but you're still going with HTTPS URL. Okay, so it is gonna check it doesn't have it. They say this certificate for is not valid, so and so, but that's fine. We know it's a known device. I'll click on advanced. I'll continue. Okay, now I'll say that admin and admin. Again, this is the default username password for the very first time. Okay, so now it is taking me to the dashboard. And let me also see what version is that. Okay, let me wait for this to come. Okay, see, now this is your Palo Alto version 9. If you go to device, or you have it here itself, when you go to dashboard, there is something called as software version. This is 9.0.4. And I purposefully kept this because on our lab, all the rest of them are on the latest version. So this is 10, this is 10 series, this is 10 series. So I wanted to show you some change, dashboard change between 10 and a 9 because there are a bit difference there. So you can see here, this is a Palo Alto version 10 and 10.0.4, and this is 9.0.4 service. Okay, so they're a bit different, not much. They are very comparable. All right, the CLI will work the same for both of them. 10 and 9 does no changes. All right, so what else we can see? Let's say we need to see the system resources. So it will show me the complete resource, like how much CPU is being used, what is the total memory going on, what is the see, this is the total memory, this is the utilized memory, this is the free memory right now. What are the top talkers here? Okay, so all this CLI commands can help you. Let's say you wanted to see show system info. So you will get all that information that what was present on your dashboard. Okay, so all this output, you get it on the CLI itself directly. Why CLI is important? Because let's say you don't want to get into the graphical and click on multiple tabs. If you know the CLI command, you can straight away get into that and pull the records. Okay, whatever you want to do it. You can also see the session information and all those things. If there is any session that is being established, it will show you under this. Okay, whatever session that's going right now. You can also see if there is any job related task, do a question mark. So you will see in case if there is any pending job or there is anything to be processed. So you can check here. Okay. So you want to see some running configuration. Okay. Like NAT rule catch or let's say security policy. Okay. So here it will show what all running configurations you have it for security policy. That means under the policy section, whatever you have the policy placed, okay, you can check it over on the CLI itself. This will give you the complete detail of it. You can see the admins, whoever is the admin logged in, or you can see admin. Okay, so whoever is the admin and whoever is logged in. So there is one user who is logged in via web right now, and the same admin is logged over on the CLI as well. Okay, so how do you check it in the graphical interface? You go to, let's say I do not know. Now I'm stuck, right? But let's say you know, then you can go to device, you can check the administrator roles. Okay, you can see the administrator here. So he's a admin super user. You can restrict whatever you want to do it. Okay, so let's say you click on this, or let's say you want to add a user. So you click on this, you name it. You can set the authentication profile like radius, TCAS, uh, LDAP, whatever. You can create a different role that he is a super user but read only. He should not have the access to commit the policy or upload the policy, or he's just a device administrator who can upload the policy but he will not commit the changes. Okay, so this way you can create all the different administrator, and if you want to check who is logged in, what is going across, so this way you can check it out. Okay, so these were show commands. Now to get into the right privilege, you have command called configure. So when you get into configure, you can configure anything directly from the CLI interface itself. Okay, so let's say I want to change the host name. So what is the host name right now? So right now the host name was, it will be shown here. Okay, so by default, this is the host name, PAVM. If I want to make the change, where do I do it? Do I have any options here to make some changes? Right. So if someone who is not aware, you need to know that there is option here. Okay, the setting button, and you can change those time and host and etc. etc. Now, if you do it over on the CLI method, you will say set. Uh, you will say set device config system host name. Okay, and then you can say call it as Palo Alto, what, July batch, enter. Okay, now if you try to get out of this mode, okay, so you get out of the mode. So you from the config mode, you're within this mode. You see that the change has not been reflected. Why? Why the change has not been reflected? You go back your dashboard. You can just refresh it. See, it is still showing the same thing. Why? Because when you click on the commit button, okay, so under the commit button, you just see what changes has been pending for approval. So it will give you the diff check kind of report. So we did some changes on this interface. I was showing you some add addition or deletion. Then I did some VR concept, right? Then I did some something with host name. Okay, so these are some different concept what I did in this firewall. So now it's waiting for me to apply that. Okay, so you should remember there are three backups. One is the running config. Second one is called the startup config. And the third one is called the candidate config. Okay, now candidate config is that change that to be applied. Okay, that to be applied on so and so thing. So until or unless you don't approve this, it will not go to the real appliances. Okay, even when you upload policy, when you upload a security policy or you add or delete something, that will go to the candidate config, and the admin has to approve that. Okay, you have to approve. The concept differs on Cisco ASA. On Cisco ASA, if you go to an interface, if you do a shutdown, that will actually put that interface on shutdown. There is no concept of candidate or approval concept. But here in Palo Alto, if someone did the same thing, if someone went to interface and by mistakenly he added a shutdown, but that will not get replicated to the real box. It will go to the admin as a pending change, and the admin has to approve that. And if he approve, then yes, that will get applied. Okay. So remember, there is a concept of candidate backup, candidate configs here. Or until or unless that's applied, it's not gonna happen. Okay. So what else? We have seen the show command. We have seen some configuration, etc. You can also do the TCP dumps and all those things like packet inspection, etc. Or if you want to do check the pending changes, you can check that. And also I'll tell you one thing, you, in case if some command has to be run by going to the config state, doesn't mean that you have to get into config, then you run. You can run it from straight away from this mode, user privilege mode, by just adding that prefix configure, and you can whatever command you want to do it. Like if you want to do a set command, okay, but the only thing is it will not, the question mark will not work here. That will be a problem for you because the question mark will stop here. If in case you go get into the configure mode, then the question mark, you can see what all commands you have it. Okay, so if you already know the command, you can put straight away. Say, for example, if you have configure, check pending changes. Let's say I know the command. Okay, so it will show me that. It will show me what all pending changes are there. Or if wanted to configure a host name. So I say configure set device config. Okay, so device, the tab will also not work. System, host name, let's say ABC something. Okay, so something like this. You can do it, but the tab and the question mark will not work. But if you're within that, then it's very simple. Let's say we have something for check pending changes. Okay, so yes, it says that yes, there is something. Okay, and if you do a question mark, how do you commit from here? You can make a commit and you can save it. Okay, you have an option of commit force, or you can just do a partial commit as well. Okay, now what is the purpose of partial? Because what happens is, let's say on Saturday and Sunday, the network administrators have done a lot of change windows. There were 10 change windows that were carried. Okay, the change request. Now, on Monday, the admin has to approve it. Now, he cannot approve all at once, correct? He cannot approve that because who knows, one of the 10 is not good. Might be one at the center is not good. So what admin will do is he will go and allow one by one. That's called partial. So he say that partial and whatever is to be allowed, like device and network only, or policy and object only, or someone with admin so and so, then only those gets uploaded. Rest he will keep it, reserve it, might be he will check later on. Okay, so you can check those segregation here. So if it is a policy and object, it will be shown here. Device and network, it will be shown here. Okay, so that is how they do a partial uh, commit on the box. Okay, so let's come out of this. I was talking about packet capture troubleshooting. So this works, the TCP dump command, which is that Linux command, it works here, even here. You can add the filters. Okay, so they are already giving you some example. So this say that any source with so and so network or host, if you give host, it will take the filter of host, and you can define that what port and what port you do not need. So basically, this is a AND operator. Okay, these are like operators. You can add or as well, or. Okay, there's some sort of operators that is used in Palo Alto. Okay, so let's say I say TCP dump filter host 1.1.1 uh, and not port 80 and so and enter this. It will listen at that particular port then. Okay, so this is how the TCP dump works. But again, you can collect it from the dashboard as well. If you go to monitor tab, there is option for packet capture, and under the packet capture you can just enable that. Okay, so you can go and apply the filters first here, what is the source and etc that you want to capture. And once you enable that, there is a option to add the different stages. So what type of packet are you interested? Are you interested to see the packet that's received, that is going via the firewall policy checks, or transmitting policy, or only the drop policy? You can say the file name, this is a drop .pcap file something, and you can generate this. So this file will capture the drop. Okay, there was an option to set some packet count also. Let's say you wanted to check 30 packet drop counts. Now, when the packet is dropped, uh, it will accumulate this. This is a PCAP format. It will start reflecting on this corner. You can download them. And if you are expertised in Wireshark, you can open it and you can read it. Okay, so this I will show you when I do the security policy concept. How do you use this? And at the same time, I'll also show you how do you capture it via this. So this concept you will also be using when we go with FI module, FI LTM, where I'll start showing the TCP captured in a PCAP, the filters and all those things, and how do we download via SCP file transfer, etc. How do we send it to the tag team and all those things? Okay. All right. So for now, let's keep the CLI to this extent. And as in then when the concept comes, I will show respectively over on the CLI and respectively on the graphical. So you have both the visibilities. Okay. All right. So now what do I have? I have one topic for packet flow. I will quickly take that. So packet flow in Palo is a very huge topic, but I'll try to summarize it. Okay. So always remember that there is something, some features in Palo which makes it unique. Okay. One of them is called content ID. The second feature here is called app ID. And the third feature is called as user ID. Okay. So content ID, it deals with all your URL blocking and all that concept. URL blocking and all those. App ID is identifying the application. And if you want to allow, delete, etc, the example of Facebook chat, Facebook video, voice, etc. So you identify the application. And user ID, which we also discussed, that the user based on IP and his behavior, we can identify it. We know the complete user behavior or user activity. Okay. Now these three concepts work on SP3 architecture. You might be wondering how the processing would happen. Will the processing first go to content, then go to app, or to user, right? It doesn't go in that way. It all happens in a single processing. All single processing over on the parallel mode. Okay. This is to increase the speed of the packet flow. Otherwise, there would be a lot of packet waiting for its turn to get classified into content, then go to app and then user. That doesn't happen in Palo because of this architecture, single processing parallel architecture. Okay. So let me show you that graph here. So you see that app ID, user ID, content ID, they sit all parallelly. Okay. And whatever is packet coming, let's say packet numbered 1. So when the packet number 1 is flowing, it all happens at a same time. Okay. When the packet number 2 gets into, it's happening over on the parallel processing. Okay. So the throughput is high here. The packet processing is high in this model, Palo-Alto model. And what happens first? I mean, when a packet is arrived, what is happening? So for that, let's consider this flow diagram. Okay. So here, let me write where are these three concepts getting added up. Okay, the content ID, app ID, and user ID. Let me first put it that. Let's say that your user ID gets determined here as soon as the user is coming in. You know that what is his IP and etc. etc. Then you have to segregate that app ID, which will happen here, and the content ID is over here. Now, this is all depending upon whether they are known or they are not known. Yes or no condition. If it is known, then you don't go via the same process once again. You can bypass it. If it is not known, then you will go via that process. Okay. So let's say a packet arrived on the incoming interface. Now what happens on the header, because all packet will have some component. It will have header and it will have data behind that, right? So the header will be inspected and it will be seen 6 tuples. There are 6 tuples that matters when a packet arrives. The source IP, source and destination IP, source port and destination port, the protocol, okay, and the service. So this 6 tuples is extracted and then it's checked what it is about. Let's say the traffic was meant only for routing purpose. Okay, when does that happen? That happens when this interfaces were not associated with any zone. Because when you because here in Palo Alto, the security policies are added to the zone, not to the interface. See, for example, when I open the interface, there is no mandatory rule that I should add it to one of the zone. I can set it as default also. Who knows? I want to keep Palo Alto's Ethernet 1/3 only for the routing purpose only. I don't want to add any security policy concept, right? So I can keep that out. I can keep it blank. So now what happens if that was the condition? The condition was that packet will just get either forwarded or either switched depending upon what type you had configured. If you did a layer 3 configuration, then it will check the routing table and it will see whether the destination path is there or not, and accordingly it will route it. If the interface was set to L2, layer 2, the switching will happen depending upon the MAC address table, correct? So when you are here, if it was routing, it will just get into here and get here. Uh, okay, I hope you are not able to see that. Okay, see, it will come till here and then it will straight away go to this block. Okay, this is when the forwarding or switching is the concept on the interface. But let's say that interface had some zone configured. This interface had some zone. Okay, the zone is, let's say I want to create a zone. I call it as outside. Okay, and then I say okay to that. And I say okay now. Now on this zone, you can see here when you go to a like policy and all. So in this, you see, if it is intra-zone, same zone to same zone, then it is by default allowed. If it is two different zone, then it will be denied. In this condition, you have one side outside and other side you have not set anything. Let's say on the other side, you keep it outside itself. So using this policy, it is getting bypassed. Whereas let's say the other interface was like marketing zone, and on this you applied outside, which will fall under this category, and by default you have deny statement. So you have to compulsory add a extended ACL now in that condition. Okay, so when you add ACL, the extended conditions, so that you add on top of zone. Remember that for Palo Alto. So for Palo Alto, the ACLs are not applied on the interfaces. It's applied on the zone. Whereas if you think about Cisco ASA concept, all your ACLs were applied on the interface. You create that ACL group, and then you go to that interface and say that ACL uh, outside, in direction, out direction, because that is on the interface level, not at least in the Palo Alto. Palo Alto, all the rules are applied on the zone. Okay, let's go to the next condition. That is, so we know that when interface are just L2 or L3, it will do either switching or forwarding. But what if there was zone applied? Okay, so when the zone was applied, it will be checked. It will be taken to the next path in the fast path. Okay, this is called fast path. And what happens in fast path? It depends whether you have any session created or not. Okay, like that connection table concept. If the session is already created, then again, you do not have to get into the slow path, because in the slow path, you will do all your security policy check, the NAT check, and all those things. A session ID will be created, and then it is gonna pass it to so and so. That is the slow path. In case if the connection uh, was not present, but let's say the connection was already present, then it will go to the other processing, the SSL decryption, encryption will happen. Okay, now it will see that whether a app identifier was applied or not. If it was not applied, it will send it to the green zone. Okay, green zone in the sense this block. Okay, then it will identify whether it's a Facebook chat or a voice or mail or whatever. It will identify. Okay, and then it will send back. At this part, it is gonna send back when the app ID was recognized, and now it will send to the content inspection. So for that, you will have the respective license there, and if it is able to see the URL filtering, and if that is allowed or not allowed, or any policies allowed like antivirus, anti-spyware, all those will be checked here. Then it will get into the lookup, like routing lookup, and it will get out of that mode. Okay, so this is a brief explanation for packet flow. When I take in the class, I'll show it in a proper font, because now the fonts are a bit distorted because of that pixel issues here. Okay, but all of this, I mean, in simple, it performs a simple routing with no much lookups and all those if the interface were configured with either L3 or L2 and no zones were configured. But if zones are configured, okay, then it will go via the fast path. So this happens when the connection were already identified in the table. Otherwise, the fast will send to the slow path, where it will see the rules, NAT rules, and create a session. Then it will push back to the fast path. Fast path will now go and check the SSL encryption, decryption. Now it will see whether the the app ID is present or not for that particular traffic. Now let's say app traffic was not present, then it will send to that app traffic block. Okay, and the identifier will be happening. Then it will come back. Now it will go back to the content ID. Okay, all your antivirus concept. if it is allowed, not allowed, all the rules will be present in this block. And then finally, it will get towards the egress condition. Okay, either routing. So the routing will be all checked at the end. Okay, so this is how the packet flow happens. And all the vendors have their own packet flow. When you go with ASA, we will see the ASA packet flow and in a respective way for all the different vendors. Okay. For Palo Alto, let's focus only on Palo Alto for now. Otherwise, you will confuse like what's happening when the packet enters. Okay, so that was a quick summary for packet flow. And okay, by the way, any doubts so far? You guys with me? If you have any question, you can put on the chat window as well. Okay, so labs in the sense we will cover all the security policy, NAT, and mm, uh, almost all the things that's doable. See, you can see the lab concept here, no? So there is all networking concept that we will be doing. Then security policy we will be doing. The certificate, self-signed certificate we will create. We will see the Palo Alto decryption. We will see the user ID concept. So user ID we may not be able to do, but we will see the theory here. Okay, so we will do a lab for URL filtering. Authentication, we will see the radius and all those things. The HA labs will be done. Okay, so there are a lot of labs here. Okay, and regarding to the config push question. So yes, as I showed you, we can do partial or we can do the full config push. Okay. Okay, any other question? We good, right? See, we are targeting PCNSA, okay, not PCNSC. So as I told you, for PCNSC, you might need extra effort, but you will attempt PCNSC once you are PCNSA, right? Once you have the knowledge of PCNSA. It's like you're appearing for CCNP, but before that, you have to have basic on CCNA, even though CCNA is not mandatory nowadays. So that's the concept here. Okay, so I'll go towards my last topic for the day. As I told you in the last class, that I will show you some automation topic for Palo Alto. Okay. So nowadays, all this Python and Ansible stuffs are all emerging things. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'll show you one simple, quick Python script. So let's say I have one Python script which will trigger some command, and using the regex concept, it will create some Excel sheet. Okay. And what that Excel sheet will contain, it will contain all the data for host name, management IP, the net mask, the software model version, the total memory, or whatever. If you have to create any Excel sheet and send it across to the management, right? Or someone has given you the assignment to see the periodic usage of the resources. So you cannot log in every time to the dashboard or the CLI and capture this, correct? So what we will do, we will prepare a script for that, and then we will run this. So once the script runs, the CSV would be generated at the end over in this empty folder. Okay, so the output you will start seeing here, and the file will come over here. Okay, so this is the output of the Python script, and at the end you created a automated CSV file. So now let's open that CSV file, what it has. Let's see the content. Okay, so you can see that you are fetching the details like the total memory, the used memory, the percent of utilization. So your PA is now having 49% utilized. Okay, on so and so date or so and so time. So you can create this kind of automation as well. So if you want uh, fetching something over on CSV and you want an email, you can do all those things. So this is Python automation, which I'll cover up. I'll show some basic script. How do you take the normal backup or configure or do something over on Python? And similar way, you can also do it using on the API. I hope you know what is API, right? So using API, you can configure your Palo Alto. You can fetch some output as well. So what I'll do right now, I'll show you something by configuring on object. Okay, like object address. So let's say I'm gonna delete something. Okay, so there is no rule right now, right? So let's say I make a configuration using a API call. Okay, so this is a object that I want to create called so and so. And within that object, I want to configure that with let's say 2.2.2, and I want to keep it some description reserved for so and so, and then I'll call that API. Okay, so that says success. I'll go back to my dashboard and I'll refresh it. So you can see that object is created, whatever we just pushed it. So this happened over on HTTP. How it happens, I'll tell you when my syllabus for Palo is completed, and at the end I'll take up the automation topics. I'll tell you how the API things happen and how did we take the CSV file over here. Okay, so for Palo Alto, that is what we will cover in next 1.5 month. Okay, so as I told, we will cover PCNSA fully, PCNSE partially. We will have all the checks on the CLI command and the graphical. We will do all the concept of security policy, all the things that is a part of this, and we will see the automation here. Okay, so this will take like 1 to 2 month. The class is on Saturday, Sunday. So let me put the timings and all those things, what is covered here. Some of you might have not joined my previous demo. Okay, so this is the flow. This is gonna be the flow. We are starting with Palo first. So today was the day 2. After 1 to 1.5 month, we will have this module starting up. Then we go to F5. Then we go to we go to checkpoint, and then finally we go to the FortiGate. Okay, so something like projecting in this direction. So after 3 to 5 months, you can see yourself being expertised on the top 5 technology, which most of network security domain ask for. F5 or Palo or checkpoint. Okay, combination of the technology. So this is the projection, one after one. And the classes are all on Saturday, Sunday only, 9 p.m. India. Okay, and it would be a session of 2 hours only. Okay, so something of this duration and this one. For pricing, or whatever discount or whatever enrollment process, you just talk to our backend. I'll give you that information. So I put it over on the screen, and also I'll keep it here. Okay, so you can reach on the WhatsApp or your number or email. So the backend people will guide you with the things. Okay, and the first two recording will be put up on our YouTube channel. So search for network journey. So this is the last class video, and the today's video will also be put up. The first two class were accessible, but the third class onwards, it's gonna be a lock session, and all the curriculums and all that thing for the complete flow, the complete 5 module is on our official website. So you can check it here. The Palo Alto syllabus, Cisco ASA syllabus, checkpoint, FortiGate, uh, load balancer. Okay. These are the lab topology that would be taken up. Yes, also I told you last class, we have a massive lab topology, which would be given after the completion of all the 5 modules. So that consists of all vendor on a single topology itself. So I'll show you that. Um, see this one. Okay, this consists of all the vendors. So this is checkpoint, this is Palo, this is FortiGate, Cisco ASA FTD. These are your F5 LTMs. Okay, and intermediately we have a MPLS cloud, we have the BGP, OSPF, all the other access list, L2 concept and all. So once you're done with all 5 modules, you will have the access to this. Now you can learn all your basic stuff, L2, L3, MPLS if you want to do it. And also you can learn the network security concept here. You want to manage between the checkpoint and let's say Palo. You want to configure a VPN between them, right? So you have that provision here. You can just spin up those lab and you can configure and you can use it. Okay. So that is why we created this massive lab. So you guys can open these nodes and work. But for that, you have to have knowledge of all 5. Otherwise, you will not be aware of how to configure this. And for each technology, for each module, there is a dedicated lab. Say, for example, for Palo Alto, this is the lab we would be taking up initially. So these are all Palo devices. Okay. We have not kept any other vendor as of now. And let's say FTD. So when you go with Cisco ASA and FTD, so this is the lab topology. These are all ASA firewalls. These are FTD. You have FMC deployed here. Okay, complete related to the Cisco vendor. Then when you move towards the F5 LTM, this is the lab. These are your, sorry, not that. This is your F5 LTM. These are those backend servers. So you will learn the concept of the algorithms, the profiles, the certificates, VIP, etc., in this module. Then when you move towards the checkpoint, then this is the concept. So you have all the checkpoint deployed here. Okay, so every vendor will have its dedicated topic, and as I told you, we go one vendor to another, and at the end we will give you access to all this massive lab where you can practice. Okay, so let me show you for one task that I have prepared the config, which is right now with me. So I will be giving you some sort of 10 to 15 such case studies. So let's say the first case studies here was that you configure a path between F5 to ASA. What is that? Let me show here. So let's say you are here and you want to access the web page which are hosted here. Okay. So you have to work on all your L2, L3, ISP, MPLS. Then you will allow those security policies. Okay. Again, the web config, etc., etc. So complete data center to data center configs you can configure on this lab. So if you see the configuration, so this is the switch configuration. These are ASA configurations. These are the ISP configuration. Okay, these are those host configuration. Then these are the MPLS cloud configuration. Then when you move towards the other side, the F5 side, that also had some firewalls and some L2 path, right? So you will create the ISP routers, then the ASA firewall for all the for the incoming traffic. And for F5, it's a dashboard device. So you will take the management, configure the whips, pool, and all those things. So end to end, you will learn. Okay. And regarding all your home lab setup, we will guide you with that home lab setup, etc. But only make sure that you have 16 plus. Okay. So if you have access to all the softwares and all, because most of the softwares you will get as a evaluation license. If you do not know, I'll also show you how do you register for a trial license. Most of them provides you. FTD will provide you a license. F5 will provide you license. Correct. So I'll show you all those things, how it is done on the official website itself. And if you have minimum 16 GB, you can easily deploy it, and we will guide you to do that. Okay, we have all the ready-made setup. We will help you with that. All right, so let me know if you have any question. Otherwise, I'm done for the day, and I would like to close the session. Regarding the lab access, guys, it will be like 5 to 6 months that you get the access on our server. And if you take it on your home lab, then it's all yours, right? All right. So if you have any question, you can also reach out to the backend and they will guide you. Okay. So I believe these two sessions were engaging and you have gained something from it. So wishing you all the best and have a nice day, guys. Take care.